All right, class, welcome. Welcome to your first homework assignment. Now, I know you guys aren't used to this, but hey, this is something we're going to be doing a little bit here from now on. Okay, so this is how it's going to be. Okay, you'll be having lecture videos, you'll be taking home and watching and turning it in your next class. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So, your warm, as you see here, this is when the Constitution was being signed. Um, if you notice, the bond it says it'll never last. 10 amendments already. An amendment is when you fix something on the Constitution. So they're like, "Hey, already we barely started. They already fixed it 10 times." Um, do you think our founding fathers really thought our country would last as long as it has already? Because we're at 248 years. Yeah, we're already 248 years. Do you think they really thought we'd last this long? Or do you think they thought, no, 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 those guys knew we'd be here now and even to the future, that we'd last, 1,000 years or whatever, maybe. What do you think? Do you think they really thought that? Or did you think they thought, like, what? If we last 200 years, awesome. That's great. You know, what do you think? So pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. Now, in the class lesson, we learned about the Constitution, how it was being created, the 55 delegates, Washington presiding over it, the whole thing with the small and large states, the whole issue with the slavery and the three-fifths compromise. Now let's look at what did the Constitution do. Okay, basically the delegates agree that the people ruled the government through a thing called popular sovereignty. Okay, they felt a representative system would be best instead of direct democracy. Direct democracy is basically when, if there was a vote, like say the United States says we want to go to war with Russia, the people, you, I, would have to go and vote on it. So they were like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Have people take time out of the day, go vote on every single issue. No, no, no. Instead, we're going to vote for somebody to represent us here where we live to go and cast a vote for us. Okay. The other thing was they agreed that the federalism, in which the power of the central government was divided between the national and the state level. That states do just have rights, but also the federal government has rights as well. They can set laws and things like that, but also so can states. Okay. So power was distributed. It wasn't like all the power belongs to the central government or all the power belongs to the states. No, they learned from the Articles of Confederation you can't do that. Okay. Now, Congress was going to be separated into two branches. Okay. So imagine a tree, and that one branch has its own two branches, you know, bursting out. That's the House and the Senate. We talked about that in the last lesson. The House of Representatives, the power is based on how many people you have. The Senate is no matter how big or small your state is, everyone gets two senators. Okay. Okay, so the Congress, they make laws. That's their purpose. Make laws, you know, um, make laws to make taxes and things like that. The president, the executive branch, their job is to enforce the laws, make sure the laws are being followed by the citizens and everyone else, you know. And the Supreme Court, the judicial branch, they are basically there to implement the law and make sure that it is actual, like, not going to hinder on your rights as citizens. They want to see that um, the law, whatever it may be, is legit. And if there's an issue that comes up along the way, um, you can go to court and they decide like, yeah, under this circumstance, in this case, yeah, the authorities couldn't do that. They couldn't do this. Okay, that's what they do. Okay. All right. So, in order to prevent one branch from getting too powerful, they created a system of checks and balances. Okay. Basically, each branch can do things, but the another branch checks them, make sure that, hey, you don't get too big for your britches. Um, so a really good one is like the Congress. They make laws, right? Well, if the Congress makes a law that the president feels like, hey, this is not right, he can veto it. Okay. Now, because he vetoes it, it doesn't mean that the law is dead. Basically, then, because of the checks and balances, it goes back to Congress and they can override the president. But they need a two-thirds majority vote to override him. If they do that, then whatever that bill was, it becomes law. Okay. But the thing is, this is one of the stipulations. They can't change anything on that bill that he vetoed. Because if they change one sentence, one period, it's basically a new document and the president gets another veto. Because now technically it's a new document. There was changes to it. Okay. Um, Congress has the power to impeach the president. So if Congress don't like what the president's doing and they're like, hey, this guy thinks he's too big and thinks he's a king, they can impeach him. They can also impeach a judge or members of the Congress themselves, you know, and charges could be, misconduct, and treason. So yeah, they can get rid of people. Okay. Now, basically, what does it mean to be impeached? Just because someone got the charges of impeachment doesn't mean that they're kicked out. That was a big misconception that people have when people say like President Trump got impeached, and people are like, "Well, why is he kicked out?" The charges were filed, okay, by the House of Representatives. The Senate had to have a case. They had to have the trial, and they are the ones who decide, do the charges stick? Okay, and in that case for Trump, they said no, the charges don't stick. That's why he wasn't kicked out. Okay. Now, here's the thing, the delegates realized that the Constitution they wrote in the summer of 1787 needed to be revised as time goes on. Because remember, these guys are smart. And like all smart people, they realize they don't know everything, they don't know what the future holds. Maybe later in the future, oh my gosh, women would have the right to vote. People might change their minds about that kind of stuff, you know? So they made it clear that you can add or make changes to the Constitution, and those changes are called amendments. Okay. Now, they didn't make it easy, okay, because they didn't want people just being like one generation going, hey, I don't like this, let's change it. And another generation going, oh, I didn't like that, let's change this. They didn't want a lot of changes. So they wanted to be like, hey, if you're going to make a change, it better be because that's what the people want. So there's a two-step process: the proposal and the ratification. Okay. If an amendment is proposed, it needs to pass by two-thirds majority from both houses of Congress. Excuse me. Okay. Now, that may seem like, oh, well, that's pretty easy. It's not. It really isn't. It's very, very difficult. Now, let's say Congress is acting a fool. Those senators and congressmen think they're all high and mighty. Well, guess what? There's another way around it. If they get two-thirds of the state to call for a constitutional convention to propose an amendment, then they can be it can be heard. But the thing is, the proposal would need to get three-quarters of the legislature to approve it, which is even more difficult. But if that's what the people want, they want a certain law, then that's how you do it. Okay. Now, ratification. Uh, to get the Constitution ratified, um, back then, out of the 13 colonies, at the 13 states, you needed 9 states to approve. Okay. Now, when it came to the Constitution, the first state to say, yes, we approve this Constitution was Delaware. They did it in December 7th, 1787. After that, other states signed up really quick: Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut. They basically said, yeah, we like this. The thing is, that's only 5 states. They need 9 at least. And some people were like, well, why aren't you ratifying this? Why aren't you approving this Constitution? And then some people were like, the Constitution needs to be changed. They're forgetting a couple things. Now, what those things are, you'll find out in the next lesson. So here's my question to you. Do you think our founding fathers would be pleased the way our country looks right now? The way things are going? The way people, you know, um, you know, how we are basically, people's knowledge of how government works, people enjoying their freedoms and things like that. Do you think Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Hamilton, the founding fathers, Franklin, who fought so hard to get this image of what the future could look like, do you think they'd be pleased seeing how we are right now? What do you think? So the writing prompt is on the bottom for you. I think our founding fathers would or wouldn't be pleased with how our country is because, and explain what you think. Okay. So with that being said, guys, congratulations on finishing your first homework assignment of this year. All right. And with that being said, you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later.